Yeah, also from my side, a very warm welcome, and I have to apologize that I have to talk in English because I don't understand your language, but this gives me also always a great experience as this morning, because this morning, and thank you Simon and Milan for the introduction, but this morning I had the feeling to be a customer, because this means sitting in a presentation, listening 1 hour, having fantastic slides, feeling great, but understanding not one single word. But at the end of the day, being in good mood to sign a contract, so this is how I would feel right now. There's one thing about the soccer. I have no clue what you did, but what I like is that the regional president is giving money away for free on stage. And there's one thing I have to explain you when you're watching now the World Soccer Championship about the German national soccer team, which I think was underestimated in this whole presentation. And this is not a joke, this is true. We equipped the national team with our HANA technology. So I'm not kidding. What you saw here in the under-19 youth player team of Hoffenheim, we have in the German national team. We don't do this in broad public for 2 reasons. We first want to see the result. And in case we are winning the World Soccer Championship, which nobody expects, we will say it's only because of HANA. If, for whatever reason, this won't happen, our national coach was not able to convey the message of HANA to the team. But at the end of the day, it's all about HANA. And this is exactly what I would like to focus on, because I try to avoid the term HANA in this presentation as much as I want, because I got the feedback from customers. They can't hear HANA anymore, but they want to understand what it is. And the interesting piece is, it is the key, let's say, invention we've made since beginning of the 90s at SAP, which will change completely and radical the way we are thinking, we are building applications, and how this will change your business, your companies, and even your life. And then people say, oh, don't you think this is a little bit too much? And I'm saying, no, this is really, it's the same revolution we are entering, what we had done in the 90s, or even when SAP was founded in the 42 years ago, with the idea to build a real-time system. And when you look today on companies, and this is what I hear all the time, they say, Rolf, we die of starvation because of complexity. And I wanted to show you a picture about complexity, and the visual you see here is what I got sent from a customer. He said, this is how my IT landscape looks like. And I was, what do you mean? He said, this is how I feel when I think about my IT. It was a retail customer, and I was saying, what do you mean? He said, look, here's the point. There are more than 3,000 products. I have no clue where they come from, where they are standing around. And when you look at it, they're integrated via layers. And we always add a new layer and a new layer, and then we think the products are integrated. But at the end of the day, what it means for me, complete complexity. And there's so many things, and I don't even know when a requirement comes in, where to put it. And you always tell me, make a new layer to make it more simpler. And today I have 2 experts sitting there. When I'm asking them one question, I get 2 answers, and they never have the same opinion. And I'm saying, but there is hope, and the hope you see here on the right side, this little corner, this is organized, this is SAP. And then he says, help me out of this. And this is exactly the point. When you look today in IT landscapes, when you look today in companies, they feel completely lost because of complexity. And everybody was adding this because of technical limitations. And on the other side, when we see this, let's say, complexity, you have to realize, and this is what we realized at SAP, that the world is changing. And Simon was talking about this before when he spoke about the new millennials, the new middle class, how sensor technology is changing the world. And here's one point which I can tell you. By 2015 to 2020, during this time frame, we will have 6 billion personal devices in the world which are all connected. If I would now ask in this room, get out your mobile devices, everybody from you has a cell phone. In this cell phone are at least 7 or 8 sensors with a gyroscope, GPS, positioning, antennas, and so on. You usually have even a smart device like an iPad or Samsung. And on top to this, you have a laptop which is also connected. So 6 billion devices will be connected, and on top of this, there will be more than 30 billion to 50 billion devices until 2030. 30 to 50 billion devices which are connected just by default. Every fridge, every car. When you buy a car from Volkswagen, a Skoda or whatever, they will have an IP address. Everything is there, everything is connected, and the question is now, how can we manage this in this huge complexity? And there are two things, and this is what I really would like to convey this next hour. So you are simplifying the landscape. What I want to convey the next hour, there are two things. The users have changed, not only because of the millenniums, it's just the user experience, and the system will change with real-time in-memory technology. And at the end of the day, this will lead you into a way to change the way you do your business. And it's funny when we talk about real-time, and I want to start with the system. We came to the point that systems today reach the limit, and we have seen the limit before in this picture of complexity. And what we did at SAP, we tried to simplify this landscape, and I will show you in 10 minutes in detail how the simplification happens on a technical layer. But just keep in mind, and just ask you the question, what if? What would change if you would be able to run business and IT processes no longer in batch, serialized, to run it in real time? Just imagine, whatever you do today, you could say, what happens or would happen if I would have right now different kind of information in real time about the situation? How would you change your behavior? And this leads to, let's say, 3 categories how business software will change. And the first is, business software will become much smarter. You saw this at this home shopping entertainment, where you suddenly have in real-time information about the sales situation and you change the strategy. Today with the systems, you collect data, you work in a batch process after the show, you analyze them, and then you take a decision for the next show. In real time, you do it right now. You change the way you sell software, you behave. There's one example where you even see that you change the complete business model. I'm not sure if you know the company BigPoint. BigPoint is one of the leading online software companies in the world. They're sitting in Europe, and you know, online games, this is the stuff all your kids are having on their smart devices and phones. They are playing, it's all free of charge. And I was asking them, how do you make money? It's free of charge. And they said, look, Rolf, it's a very simple business model. The games are free of charge, and then when you are losing, afterwards we analyze this, and then we send you an email that you can buy some special weapons or special equipment. And people buy this, and I said, really? So when I play on Monday a game and you send me an email on Thursday, do you think I have an emotional connect? He said, you know, we have to send a lot of emails, but some people buy. And I said, and why do we talk? And he said, can we optimize this process with your HANA stuff? And I said, sure, but what do you want to do? And he said, I want to do, during the game, in real time, the analysis, which kind of weapon, energy level you would need right now. And then I want to make an in-app purchasing. You must imagine this monster is coming, I'm fighting, and then you see energy level 50%, 40, 30. And then there's a pop-up saying, hey, for €1 you could buy a special weapon to blow away this monster. And you would say, buy. And I didn't believe it, so I'm not a gamer, but then I realized when you buy this, you can Twitter that you're a cool guy and came to the next level. And the funny thing is, we did this with HANA, and we are analyzing 800 million events per day. And what happened is the sales increased, and the whole sales process was changing. This is doing smarter business just by changing the information you have in real time at the moment they are created. It also helps you to make better decisions. You often see you're faster, but it's not about being faster. It is about taking the better decision because you have a faster insight. And the best example I'm always using there is predictive maintenance. You know, we have all the sensor data of a machine, a pump or whatever, and then we are analyzing the sensor data. We see, hey, look there, we are losing liquid or the pressure is too high, and we can predict based on the history and based on other cases we had, that maybe in 6 hours this machine will be damaged. But if you would maintain it right now, you could avoid this. You take the better decision. So this is another way you're trying to do, and you see this in the background with this engineer. The engineer is coming and tells you the machine will crash in 1 hour, and you said, I don't see it. But if he doesn't act, it would crash. So this is the way you completely change the way you do business. And last but not least, to simplify landscapes, because when you have data in real time, the first thing you solve, there are no redundant data anymore. You keep one version of truth, you reduce the amount of data, and having only one version of truth means you have only one source you're using to take your decisions, which helps you a lot, especially when you're in forecasting or sales or an analysis of predictions. This is the situation. And this happens by changing the philosophy of thinking in real time, by the philosophy of changing from reporting into prediction, into analytics. And this is exactly what we did with by inventing HANA, to say we need a new foundation to build business applications. On the other side, we absolutely reached a limit, and this is where the user empowerment is changing. It's not only about millennials. I'm not sure how it's in your life if you have kids at home, but I have a nephew, and he spends usually the weekends in our place, and he's 19 years old, and it's really a nice boy. I love him, and he's nice. But he drives me crazy. He was in our house, and during the soccer season, I asked him, Fabian, today is Saturday, today is a soccer match. I sent you an email on Wednesday asking you if you should go to soccer because I need to get the tickets organized. And he was saying, what did you do? I said, I was sending you an email. And he said, an email? Nice. Rolf, when you want to talk to me, ping me. Emails I will read when I'm dead. I was breathing. My doctor told me relax. So I was breathing, and I was thinking, my friend, one more command and you have a lot of time to read your emails. But this is the new generation. They live in real time. They live always connected. And what they don't get, they ignore. And imagine these kind of people, as you saw in Simon's presentation, will be the workforce of 75% or represent 75% of the workforce by 2030. I couldn't imagine to have this person in a making serious business, or in a position making serious business decisions, but he will do one day. So you have to build the software growing with this new audience. And when we talk about user experience, it's not about user interfaces anymore. We had to learn this at SAP. So our style of building software was, we have fantastic business applications, and then the game was, how can you get the most fields on one screen? So how can you get all the information on one screen and leave it with the end user? And today it's, where is the user, in which condition environment does he exist or she exist, what is the connectivity, what is the device, which kind of decision he or she wants to take, what information do I have to push out. This is user experience. And you see these Google glasses, you saw this in the video from Hoffenheim. You will see Apple will announce in October an iWatch. So it doesn't make sense to say, now I have another mobile device with a smaller screen. That's not the iWatch. You have to say, what is the device, what is the environment, what is the role? And you see, the roles flipped. Before, the CEO was the most important person in the company. The CEO got everything, He had the best dashboards. He knew why you can't sell, but he didn't talk to the customer. So today, the service people, the field people, the guys who do the work, the job, it doesn't matter if it's in support, if it's in sales, if it's in services, they need the information, and this whole pyramid changed. And now you see the user experience, it's no longer an interface, completely decoupled from the mentality, from the business application. And take these two trends as no more trends, as a fact, and then think about what's happening with big data. And I don't like this term big data. I'm more I like the term smart data, but the technology changed, the usability changed, and now the way we manage data changes. I'm not sure about whom of you, if I would say, whom of you is doing big data? Who's doing big data? Just raise your hand. No one? It's only me? Come on. Simon, you do big data when you make a pipeline. No big data? This is the point, I think big data is like a hype, and I often get this feedback, big data, I can't hear it, we do big data since 40 years, Big data is like teenager sex. I'm not sure if you know this. Teenager sex is, everybody is talking about it. Nobody has a clue about it. Everybody thinks the other is doing it. So everybody claims he's doing it. But at the end of the day, nothing happens. This is a little bit how big data is seen in the market. And but I tell you one thing, big data will change the way you do your business. Because what it is, you take data from different domains. You take your data from your, let's say, transactional systems. You take data from social, like you saw at Kofler. You take data from sensor systems, just raw data material. Then you take suddenly unstructured data. You suddenly take data from tons of sources, but even more important, you leave your industry domain. You take data outside your industry. The best example is in the pharmaceutical industry. You must imagine, they take Google searches about the flu with the geolocation of a phone. And then, based on this information, they get a signal and they change the logistics and shipping of the medicine against flu. This is big data. And why does this work? You have an in-memory database. There are no boundaries between the different data sources, and you have one version of truth and you take a decision. What you saw with the soccer, this is big data. We took sensors from both players, put this together with history data, combine this and predict what would happen. You could say after 10 minutes in a match, this defender has to be taken out because he's always 2 steps too slow at the beginning against his attacker. I'm not kidding. You completely change the way you take decisions. And what happens with big data, and this is, I'm not sure if you feel this, I'm so thrilled if you do it right because it changes the behavior, how we act. How do we act today? We think about a model. We usually have a model. Based on the model, we take some samples, and this is how we execute business. On big data, you don't think about the model. You just take the truth of the pure volume of data. And I give you 2 examples which opened my eyes. One is coming from the car industry. Mercedes, you know Mercedes, and when I came here, I saw you seem to love driving big and fast cars. And Mercedes has a division, it's called AMG. AMG is doing the tuning for the engine. This is the high-performance engine. These are the engines with 300 to 500 horsepower, and it's prime segment. And the core business of this company is to make the best engines and the best quality that they don't break. So the real asset is what they call the test lab, where they test the engines after they have built and tuned them on high performance. And such a test lab is costing between 150 and 200 million euros, and they only have 12. And so the engineers are fighting to get a slot to test the engines to get it out of the production. And test engines for such a high-end engine producer like Daimler and AMG is important. So we went in there and I said, you have so many sensor data, you know what? Get me all the data. I mixed the data with the patterns and failures we had before from testing, which is an SAP store. I take non-SAP data. And then we will take all this data and then we can predict a test run. And for example, we see after 2 hours in a 4-hour test that you can take out the engine because this and this will happen. They told me, Rolf, you're complete crazy. You have no clue about engines. You're not an engine engineer, you're a software guy. This should not work. I said, give me the project. So we went in with HANA, we made this, and you know what the funny piece was? We increased the productivity by 20%, or in other days, we could optimize the testing of engines without being an engine engineer from 5 days to 4 days. What they tested before in 5 days, they did that in 4 days. And this was funny when we went back to the CEO, telling him, oh, we finalized our test now, and we have a problem. He said, what is the problem? I said, the problem is very simple. We do not know if we should send away or send your people home after 4 days now, or if you should sell 2 of the test booths to save $250 million, euros, or if you should just increase your output by 20%. I'm not sure. And at this point, he said, are you kidding me? He said, no. This is the beauty of big data. The same happened, and this was happening in the medicine business, in the NCT. This is a cancer research center in Germany. And you must imagine, I hope you never get in touch or get the diagnostics of having cancer of your friends or your family, because this is a tough treatment to become, again, healthy. because they identify a type of cancer and then they put you in a chemotherapy and then they wait 3 weeks if the chemotherapy works for your body. And these are horrible 3 weeks. So what we did is we went in with HANA and we said, you know what, we have all this patient data unstructured. We put really the facts out of this. Then we were taking completely different domain, clinical test trials for chemotherapy test runs. Then we took DNA data from people to say who has the same biomarkers in his body, because we can decode them instead of 3 weeks within 4 hours. Then, after we've done this, we've taken other doctors and treatments and how people with cancer had the evolution of the health and the whole therapy over time frame. We took all these different sources, and then the 5th source was expert knowledge from doctors, latest research knowledge. And you know what the funny piece is? We are not a doctor. SAP doesn't make medicine, but with these facts, we could give you a better decision after 4 hours instead of 3 weeks, which treatment would have a higher probability to fight against cancer. And we got a lot of prizes for this innovation. And again, we are not doctors, but you have to understand what happens now. You take all this information from different sources, you bring it together. You do not even know what the information of a clinical test trial with a person with the same DNA would make to a person who got identified a cancer on this DNA type. This is the new world, and for this you need a new foundation of software. And here's the point. Why is SAP so strong in that? At the end of the day, when you have a signal, you have to turn this signal into action. And this transition from signal to process, this is what we do with you since 40 years. We bring in the new world to get it executed later on, because the worst thing you have is you acquire data, you analyze data, but you can't act. Imagine if you can predict that a pump in a production location in China will crash in 6 hours, and you have no service process and asset management process in place to fill up the cooling liquids. This is the way, and now your whole thinking about innovation will change dramatically. And having said this, you understand that changing technology means enabling a new way of doing business. But having such a radical change of changing the way you build business software and applications, you leave even the boundaries how you act. You will see that you change business innovation, you change even society and life. And to give you this feeling and this perception, how easy this simplification will go on, let's make a quick whiteboard exercise, and you will say, why didn't you find this out earlier? The first thing is, in today's world, we have 5 defined different sources of data. You all know one source for transactional data, like invoices. We have this in SAP, ERP systems, a huge amount of data. Next to it, we figured out, when we want to make an analysis, a report, you need an analytical system, a warehouse. The issue is that the warehouse is storing data in a different format, in different type. It's very simple. We always say the one is read intense, the other is write intense. And this is why we have to separate this, because of physical limitations. That's all wrong. The only difference is, in a transactional system, you have a so-called single select. To get an invoice, I need 30 to 40 fields to put together and materialize the invoice. This is why we store the data in rows, to be faster, because the limitation is the head of the hard disk, because you can't have 40 movements to get one invoice. It's the physical, I call it latency time, of a head on a physical hard disk, which forced us to store the data for transaction data in rows. That's it. But when Simon wants to know how many invoices he sent out in Slovenia, he needs the sum only of the total. So what we did is we were copying the transactional data into an analytical system and stored it not in rows, in columns. That is faster, again, for one reason, because the head would move too often. And I'm always doing this joke. And imagine if SAP would even be slower because you have one database, so we don't want to do that. So we figured out 2 sources. Then you have unstructured data. You store this different, Word, file servers. It's a completely different way for input-output management. And now you have this new world of social media, which is a NoSQL environment. You just dump the content. And then you have this machine's proprietary, like sensor data, which store the data in whatever format and type. This is reality. And whenever you want to make a decision, You had to move and copy around the data. And you know what we did? We said we need the middleware. We put a new layer, an abstraction layer to make it simpler. Like in an organization, if you have 500 customers, you suddenly say, we make a regional sales organization, and you have regional leads, and you make a new abstraction layer. And we did this in IT, and we had 7 layers, 8 layers, and aggregates. And you know what? There's a bank in Switzerland, and this is no joke, who have 5 stages to consolidate data to take a business decision in the board. And I was, how long does it take, 5 stages? And they told me, what do you mean? I said, how old are the data before you take a decision in the board? And they said, Rolf, 5 days. I said, 5 days? You work with 5 days old data in the finance, banking industry? And they said, yes. I said, in 5 days, the United States are 2 times bankrupt and 3 times saved. You can't do this. And you know what they told me? Rolf, relax. Everybody is doing it this way. And this is just the physical limitations. So what we did is, in memory, it was first not about speed. We figured out at the moment you can move all data in memory, you can break up the boundaries of these different silos. You kill the redundancy. Because when you store data in memory, you have no physical hard disk anymore, and you have the data only once. And you know what? And now it becomes funny. You kill the 5 different silos of data, you kill the redundancy, you reduce the amount of data, but what's even more important, you don't need aggregates anymore. Because today in financial controlling, you need to build totals and sums because it would take too long on a hard disk to get, just for an average sum or planning purposes, let's say the last 1 million items. But in memory, and this is the beauty of in memory, you can parallelize with the multi-cores, CPUs, this execution. When you move data in memory, you lose the redundancy, you lose the copies, you lose the multiple versions, and you lose any aggregate, any pre-thought totals, sum aggregation. And this gives you back the flexibility. Why? Because we often rethink what we might need as an information. We rethink how an aggregate would look like, but I do not know if you need this in business. This means in an in-memory database, you keep just the granularity and lowest level of raw data. And whatever question you have, you just ask them, and it's getting out. And this is the beauty, because what we did in memory, we moved the data in HANA, and we added the business logic. This means when you want to know what is the totals or the sum in Slovenia or somewhere else, it was not pre-calculated. You take the actual postings, which you have only as one single version of truth as a copy, and you build the sum, and you have the amount of cores in multi-parallel processing to get it out. This is the whole beauty. And now you see what happens. IT and data is no longer integration, it's no longer aggregates, it's no longer sums, it's just raw data. This is the story. And now you see what happens. You have the data, the calculation logic, the processing logic, the business logic in one machine on the main memory. Data is not shipped away between the application servers. Even your application's decoding moves down closer to the data. You have 60% less line of code. Because what we did in the past is, when you wanted to build business software, you take a database, you make a data model, then in the database you build aggregates and some calculations to be faster, and then you take an application server, you have a virtual data model which matches against your physical data model to build your application. You build 3 layers of redundancy. In the new world, you store your data in a raw format, wherever it comes from. You execute business logic on the data, and the results, and this is what is here, you give to the user experience layer, which could be everything. A sensor, you take OData, we take Fiori, you just send out what the consumer needs at his moment on his device. This is the new world. And now you see what happens. We have put this technology underneath all SAP solutions. We said, we have to protect your investment. We want to protect what you did in the past. And with all respect, it's a huge effort to enable this software because you have to put the line of codes, but this is what SAP is doing, and this is what you get for your maintenance. And we look on SAP Simple Finance, we announced last week in Orlando, that's exactly what we did. You have now a finance system within SAP running on HANA, where you have no more aggregates, no more redundant data, and you can make a fast close in real time. You can make planning on your data, which is not 2 weeks old. You do it in real time, what you have. You have treasury, cash optimization, fully on real time on this data. This is what was enabled by technology. But the smart thing is, aside this, you add the non-SAP world. You take sensor data, you take your homegrown development, and you simplify your landscape. And when you look at this, you have 4 areas of simplification. The first is, you kill redundant databases, which is only complex and makes you outdated and you're further away from real time than ever before. The second thing is, by moving into memory, you lose all aggregates. This means you even free up the limitations you have been put on because of your aggregation. The third thing is, the business logic from the applications which was redundant, you move down to the data. And then you decouple the user experience, which was also part of the application before. And last but not least, you can deliver and ship this via cloud. That you don't have the effort to install and maintain, it's coming directly out of the cloud. This is, when we talk about simplify and innovation, what our approach is. And it was powered by an in-memory approach, changing your mindset, how you do business application. And this is not revolutionary. We made this as an evolution because we put this underneath any application of SAP. You know, people ask me, is this the new SAP? I said, no. It is a new SAP of the approach, how we decouple the user interface and how you can do your business. But the value we offer you since 42 years, it's integrity and governance. And this remains, because what you do here, you make sure that your data is governed in the way you want to run your business. And when you look at this as a next step, change the way you think. Today, SAP is often seen, like here on the left side, in run the company. We want to simplify, to run the IT, we want to reduce the complexity and optimize. But think about the market trends which are coming: cloud, mobile, in-memory. We brought this into a platform. And this is the same platform you now can use for your innovation part, your line of business. When your business is saying, hey, we need for tomorrow a new idea to develop it, you don't have to buy another technology. You can run it on the same technology, fully integrated. It's the first time you find an integrated, I call it a real-time enterprise stack or platform, which can do innovation and change your company. At the same time, you run and optimize it. And why is it good to have this layer? At the moment you have a signal from the innovation, you can execute it on the processes you've implemented over years. At the moment you make a fast close, you know how to do the booking. This is, I call it the smart way forward, that every customer can leverage this investment and SAP won't leave any behind, and they can move to new technologies. And as SAP is driving the cloud, everything we do, you can deploy via cloud and have the integration. I had a long discussion with other companies who also say they make in memory, and cloud companies who said we do the same. I said, no, you don't do the same. You exchanged some selected tables and moved them as a copy in the cache to be faster. This is hardware tuning. We want to change the philosophy, the data model, how you run your business. And this is exactly what we did. And with SAP Smart Finance, it was a starting point. All our applications will go this way. And when we talk about HANA projects, 60% of the HANA projects we run are not running with SAP data. That's exactly the way forward. And this is exactly why we say at SAP, it is all about a real-time platform, the user experience, and the way you work with data, with smart data and the new data. And you know what? We have this slogan, simplify everything so you can do anything. And somebody came to me and said, oh, Rolf, this is tough marketing. And I said, no, this is what it is all about. Today, complexity kills us. And when you don't simplify, and simplification means in IT, get rid of boxes, get rid of databases, get rid of layers, get rid of middleware. I'm always saying, you know how we sold simplification in the past? I went to you and said, oh, this is very complex. Add this more layer, add this new box, and it's getting simplified. That's the wrong approach. You have to get it out, get redundancies out. And then I said, and then you will absolutely break through unimaginable things. The only limit is the sky and your imagination. And then they said, I can't believe this. And said, here's the point, and I'm telling you now a real story. This is not marketing, not a vision. This is real and you can touch it. I said, we can simplify and innovate everything. And could you imagine to simplify this process? I was in a soccer match, real story, and there was a guy I didn't know sitting next to me. So we got introduced, and I asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "He's a technical director." I said, "Cool, I'm also working in this tech stuff space." And I said, "In which company do you work?" And then he said, "I am working in Hackleitner." I said, "Hack what?" He said, "Hackleitner." And he's a market leader. I said, "Oh, never heard this, but sounds really interesting." And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm working in the hygiene business. Paper towels, soap dispensers for toilets and washrooms." And then I was thinking like a technical director working for a paper dispenser on a toilet. So I was like, where do you need a technical advisor when you're sitting on the toilet and pull the paper? And then he realized that I didn't take him serious. And then he said, "You don't take me serious?" I said, "No, I also work a little bit with technology, but it's hardly to imagine for me that I need a technical director for a toilet." And but I wanted to be nice, and so he gave me his business card. And I said, "You know what, it's in Austria, when I will be there, maybe during the World Soccer Championship, because you don't go there, you have time, so maybe then I visit you." And out of sudden, I was in Salzburg. I gave him a call. "I will be in Salzburg. I would like to visit your innovative toilet." And then he invited me myself to his company. And then he told me about his problem, because they do the washrooms, public washrooms all around the world. And his biggest issue was he wanted to connect everything. They wanted to put 27 sensors in the washroom because they wanted to change the hygiene business. And I was thinking, they are so crazy, but that's fun. So I said, "What is the problem?" He said, "I want to control the whole washroom. When people go in, out, when it's used, I want to know where do I need soap, where do I need paper. I want to know how many people are in to send the cleaning troops. I want to do everything, but the problem is I have to do this in real time." Because you must imagine when you go to a toilet and you lock a door because you think the paper is ending and somebody is inside the toilet. This is hard stuff for the guy inside, not getting out. And so I said, real time, you have to take HANA. And what we did then is we were rethinking the whole process in the washroom, and we were implementing this project with pure HANA technology in the cloud, HANA Cloud Platform. And we finalized it. And as we started with soccer today, I want to show this technology will be used on the World Soccer Championship next time. They just sold it. And I want to give you a feeling what it's all about when you start thinking in platforms in real time and leaving all boundaries. And so I would like to say thank you so much. Take this last video as an impression, and I hope you enjoyed the last hour to see how technology can change your business and the life. Thank you so much.